Good morning, everyone. We're not doing as great as we normally do. We only have 6 people.
Hi, Ms. Flores. Sorry.
I couldn't sleep last night.
I couldn't either, but I have a lot going on. What's going on with you?
Just political unrest.
Yeah. I have a daughter I'm taking down to UCSD tomorrow.
Oh, let's be exciting and a proud
scary
moment.
all at the
Is it
same
a good
time.
thing?
I think it's a good thing, but I'm worried for her, right? I don't want her to get sick.
Oh, yeah.
And she's so far away.
Yeah.
I think she'll be okay. Also, for only the handful of you that are here right now, she just passed her driving test like 1 minute ago. So that's been scary. I was like,
Congratulations.
my husband took her because I had class, and I've been like totally worried. Woke up super early this morning, just freaking out. But she passed her driving test, so we're good now. I know it's bad, but I think you guys wait a little longer. She's 18, so that's kind of odd that she's waited so long to get her license.
She passed?
Yeah. Woohoo. From the peanut gallery. Yay. All right, now everybody's making it in. Slowly but surely, the room starts to fill.
Good morning.
Morning.
Oh, good morning, Ms. Flores.
This extra light right here is because I want to show you stuff on my my dock cam, which is my phone. I can't figure out a better way to do that with the tools that I have. So I'm going to use my phone again to be able to show you stuff, because it's too hard to hold up like that, right? So I guess while everyone's coming in, I would ask you guys if you have thought of a company that you want to make a logo for, or if you have a friend that has a startup or a family member who's trying to do something. Do you guys have anything going on?
Yeah, actually a few days before I learned about this project, that we were having this project, a few of my friends hit me up to do a logo for one of our friends who's doing like a weightlifting kind of club out of her house for her students. She teaches basketball down in San Diego for Palomar College. And so it's, yeah, they want to put it on a sweater, and I told them that it has to be like a simple logo for this project. So they're like, okay, well, we can do the one in the back later, but we can start on the one that's going to go on the front of the hoodie. So
awesome. Well, isn't that always handy? Because you're going to have a million people hit you up when they hear that you do graphic design. Hey, can you do a logo for me? How much is it for a logo? Can I have a logo? Like you just have them in your pocket. Yeah, sure. Let me get one out for you. Here, does this one work? Awesome. Anybody else? Really awesome. What are you guys thinking? Because I started, go ahead.
So I'm thinking of, so my husband has a online LLC when he used to work freelance, and he doesn't really use it anymore, but I thought maybe I can do that. So he does visual effects. So I'm having a hard time coming up with things that relate to that as far as tangible things, because it's all online, and but I'm thinking of because the name is kind of cool. It's called FX Thinking. I'm thinking of something to do with just the name, like maybe like a brain or a light bulb, and the whole thinking thing. So yeah, that's where I'm going. So I'm kind of confused about the brainstorming, how you put it together to come up with branch out into different ideas. I have one, so maybe after the class, I'd like to show it to you and get some
I
feedback.
think, well, what I would like to do today is have you guys showing it to each other in small groups and doing it. So I don't want you to leave today without having an idea of how to do the morphology matrix and how to keep going. So you might not get to the logo part just yet, and that's fine, but getting the word, like the mind mapping, the word mapping, and getting the idea of this morphology matrix, and we can get that for Tuesday, and then we'll be working on sketches and putting them together into a logo next week. So that was what I decided today. Like, I don't want you to leave without knowing what the heck you're doing. And so I think that this part is kind of tricky. And so it takes a little bit, I'm willing to invest a little more time here on the front end to make sure you guys know what you're doing. So one of the things that I was thinking about was writing down a list of all different kind of businesses you guys could pretend that you have if you don't have any ideas of what am I going to do a logo for. So when we get to number 3, the brainstorming part, I'll give you guys just some brainstorming I just did on like random businesses that you might think, oh yeah, I can do something for that. It doesn't have to be real. We can make this up. It doesn't have to be for somebody, right? So we're still got a few more people popping in. And my dog thinks that she needs to go outside, but she really doesn't. So if you keep hearing her yapping, there's no one to let her out right now. So she's going to be a little fussy. I can't remember if you guys met Zoe or not. Yeah, okay.
Yeah, we met.
I couldn't remember. Sometimes she makes appearances in my classes and sometimes she does not. Okay, so I want to point you in the marketing basics where this information is. I think in this, I think I've already mentioned to you that how important it is. And marketing is a huge a slice of industry where you will be working. And so I want you to understand, where does advertising, where do logos and brands, and where do those things fit into this umbrella under marketing? So I've provided that information in the To Learn Marketing Branding page. And so I really need you guys to take a look and go through it and watch my presentation and look at these supplementary slides and kind of understand, where does this fit in the big picture? This is not something I'm testing you on. It's something that you need as background or foundation moving forward, even through the program. I think it's really important for you to understand, where does marketing fit in, and where as a designer do you fit into the marketing? So I think there's a lot of misconceptions on what this umbrella is, and I want you to go here and look at it. There's also a few external links that you can check out. If any of my external links are broken, or if something isn't working correctly, because I check all my links at the beginning of the semester, but inevitably some of them break by the time I get there. You can even, if you don't want to listen to the lecture, you can look at the PDF and you could check it out in written form for those who are more comfortable with that. So I'm not going to go through that because I want to spend the majority of our time on the rest of it. So if I go back to my agenda, I'd like to give you a secondary Gestalt talk with more logos, so that you can now that you've seen some of these concepts that I just talked about them on Tuesday, I want you to see them in action.
When she walks.
And a few things that you might be familiar with. So I'm going to go through that. Then I'm going to request that you go get your sketchbooks and your pencils if you haven't done that already. And you're going to go into some breakout rooms. And I'm hoping those of you that have already tried the exercise can share some of the things. I'm going to show you a few things before you pop into those breakout rooms. And you're going to be practicing and understanding. And I think if you do it in small groups, it'll be very beneficial. Is everybody with me? Okay. I think I lost my chat window somewhere underneath all these windows. Oh, see, there's some chat in there. Oh, just saying good morning. Okay. Okay, here we go. Let's talk about Gestalt and logos. That's this one. And I would like my little speaker notes to pop back up. Where did they go? Here we go. Okay. So we already talked about what is Gestalt last time. And maybe what I didn't give you as part of that definition as that this idea of Gestalt psychology was considered a school of psychology. And it was founded around the 20th century. So in 1900s, where they're trying to figure out the study of perception with our eyes and our brains, right? So I think I've already told you, but I'll repeat myself. The word Gestalt is used in modern German to mean the way a thing has been placed or put together. There is no exact equivalent in English. Form and shape are the usual translations. In psychology, the word is often interpreted as pattern or configuration. So again, this is how we perceive, and that's what's important because we all perceive things a little differently. Our minds all work a little differently. So again, I would say the basic principle is that the whole is greater than the sum of its parts. So if you add up all the pieces, if you look at something as a whole, it's going to be more complete. As a reminder, these are the pieces that we're going to go over again. Figure ground, similarity, proximity, closure, continuity, and order and symmetry. If you remember when we talked about figure ground, I said that it's producing different effects and it's confusing our eyes. So if we might see one thing and then a second later we might see something else. And so I have a great example of this, and I don't know how many of you, I'm actually curious, don't put your microphones on, but instead give me a thumbs up or a yes in the participation window to tell me if you've seen the figure ground in this logo. Oh, there's a few people that have not. And so what I'd like to point out in this particular case, if I can get my little annotation, I think that the square works the best for me for annotating. Look right here. That color is not working very well, is it? Can't make it better. There. There's an arrow in FedEx. It used to be Federal Express, and then they shortened their name, FedEx, and there's an arrow hidden in there. Yeah, oh, well, I guess somebody's saying that there's a spoon too, but I don't know that that really means anything. The FedEx with the arrow is showing you that they're moving, right? That they're fast, showing you movement forward. Okay. Need to be on here.
Really, Roxy?
Okay, let's keep our microphones off for now. Oh, I can't get to my next slide when I have the annotations on. That's a bummer. Okay. Have you guys ever seen this one before? So I'm hoping that you can see some of the animals that are in there within the giant elephant. We're looking at a giraffe, a rhinoceros, maybe some kind of bird beak. And then I have one more, I think. Actually, I have two more. So this one looks like the continent of Africa, but it also looks like an adult and a child and their faces facing one another. And then this one you might have seen before. This is a logo for Girl Scouts. I don't know if sure if you ever paid attention that there were girls in that photo with their profiles. I'm sorry, not photo. Icon, logo. Okay, so that's a figure ground. Now let's talk about similarity. If the individual elements share some kind of similar traits, the human brain will organize them into a group and perceive them as a whole. And this is a really good example of that. I'm not sure if you weren't around during this time, this logo might not be familiar to you. But Sun Microsystems was a big computer company back in the 90s. And this was their logo. So it is, if you look closely, you can see SUN repeated around, even though it's a letter U. And so I think that you're going to see that some of these might appear that they could belong in more than one category, and that is totally true. So I'm going to show you another one here for PBS. I'm not sure if you ever looked at some of these logos more closely to see what's going on there. So that's a repeated face in the PBS logo. Okay, proximity. When individual elements are very close to each other, the human brain perceives them as a whole, but in a different shape. So this is a great example of that. I know it's blurry. It's blown up a little bit. So I don't know if you've ever looked at the Unilever logo up close. It's usually really tiny on your bottles of whatever you're purchasing or soap. But if you were to look at it really closely, you can see lots and lots of organic pieces in there. So I can see there's a bee that looks like that could be, maybe, is that supposed to be a plant DNA strand? Is that supposed to be butterfly? There's a palm tree, something that looks like a hand, a flower, a swirl, a fish. Maybe something that's supposed to be water, some arrows, a bird. So there's all kinds of stuff that are pulled together into this logo to make that U. That's considered proximity. A completely different looking one is the IBM logo. If you had these lines all over the place and they weren't near each other, it wouldn't make any sense. Closure. This one's pretty easy. I think that we can all see this all around us, and it's not hard to figure out which one it is. So we will close or complete the lines of an object that are not, in fact, closed. So I think the most obvious one that's around you guys, particularly all the time, is this one, the Adobe logo. So the A is there. It's just we don't see that it's closed and has edges. Here's another one that you might see, I'm not sure how often, but this one's for the World Wildlife Federation, not sure. But we know that it's a panda, and it doesn't matter that it doesn't have closed edges around its head or across its back. And here's another one that I showed last semester, and some didn't realize there was something else in the middle of this. Does anybody in the chat, can anybody see what's in the middle of this? And maybe you're going to know now because now they have a streaming service. So you might have been wondering, why do they have a streaming service? Because they've always been known for the peacock. And so if you look at some of the old versions of their logo, it literally looked like an illustration of a peacock. And some of the bumpers that they would do for NBC, it would come like strutting out and splay its feathers. And so this has come and been simplified quite a bit. Yeah, so if you were wondering why there was a piece cut out of the feather, it is the beak of the head of the peacock there. Okay. And continuity. So I'm going to show you a couple of varieties in this and one that you're super familiar with. This is where we're continuing shapes or our eye is moving beyond the endpoints that we can see. So in this case, I want to show you Amazon. And I don't know if you've made that connection before. One, it's sort of a smiley face, right? But more importantly, it's supposed to be that they're doing things from A to Z. So that's why it starts with the A and it bumps up into the Z. So they do from A to Z, right? They do the whole enchilada. That's what they're trying to show us here. Yeah, I think there's a lot of people who were like, who just, you see these things every day, but you don't look close and see that there's other things hidden in there. Now you have things that you can talk about at your next cocktail party when we're allowed to have cocktail parties again, right? Because we always have cocktail parties. So the next one, great example of a logo that uses continuation is Coca-Cola. The ribbon is specifically meant to make our eye move through the logo. And it was originally based on handwriting. And then they made a custom logo mark out of it. Another one that you don't see both pieces together much anymore is Nike. They don't need to have the word Nike there anymore because we associate the swoosh with it. It took a long time for them to be able to drop the word Nike, but the swoosh is definite continuation. It makes our eyes keep moving off the page. So think about that when you're making logos. Think about, where do you want someone's eye to start? What do you want them to see? Where do you want them to go? That's part of your job. You are directing someone's mind and eye through your work. The next one is order and symmetry. Oops, did I miss the actual? Yes, I did. This is talking about things that are symmetrical to each other and perceiving them as a group together. So my first one is the Olympic rings. It's completely symmetrical. We don't see them as individual rings. We don't see them as only the blue one or the green one. We see them as a whole set together when we see this logo. This is another one that we look at, and it is very symmetrical, but I will tell you that it's not perfectly symmetrical. And I'm wondering in the chat if anybody knows, what did they adjust to make it not perfectly symmetrical? So when they were redoing this logo, and I can give you a little history. I have a little PDF on the history of the logo of Starbucks. And the interesting thing is that as they have simplified her, the siren, they found when they made her perfectly symmetrical, she didn't feel as human and she looked more robotic. Like she didn't seem like she had any empathy. She didn't have humanistic qualities. So they changed one little thing to make it not symmetrical. So somebody in the chat has said what they think it is, and you are correct. I'm gonna use my little drawing thing right here. That little piece under the eye, they made that little shadow come down a tiny bit longer than the other side to make her face feel more human. Isn't that interesting? See, look at all these tidbits I'm giving you. You guys can have something to talk about now. Okay, the next one. So it doesn't let me when I have that. Okay, the next one, another one that you might be very familiar with. This is symmetry, and it makes us feel good, and it's easy to notice. So one of the things maybe I haven't said during the last two lectures, I want you to know that our brains constantly look for patterns. And so when we see something, we're looking for the part that's out of the pattern. And so people often ask me when they're showing me their designs and showing me stuff, how did you see that that wasn't aligned? And I say, because my brain is it's trained to look for a pattern. So if something is out of alignment, I'm always looking to see what pieces align. I'm looking for the grid. I'm looking for seeing like, why did somebody put that where they did? And so as you start to train your brain to do that, these things will pop up more and more easily for you, and you'll start to see those patterns. So next Tuesday, we're going to talk about the principles that we use in layout, which is contrast, repetition, alignment, and proximity. So when we're laying things out, it also connects with the logos that you'll be creating. And what we just talked about again, figure ground, similarity, proximity, closure, continuity, or continuation, and order and symmetry. So now I have a handful of other logos that I'm wondering. Actually, I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to stop recording so you guys can just blurt out some of the things that you see and we can have a little discussion here.